Gosport was founded early in the 13th century. The name Gosport is probably a corruption of Gosport, perhaps because wild geese gathered there. In the Middle Ages, Gosport was only a small market town and port. It only had a few hundred inhabitants. Many of the men in Gosport were fishermen. In the 15th century, a tower called the Blockhouse was built on the site of Fort Blockhouse to defend the entrance of the harbour. In the 16th century, a writer described Gosport as a fisherman's village, although shipbuilding and sailmaking were other industries in Gosport. However, it remained a small market town and port until the 17th century. In 1763, a body of men called the Improvement Commissioners was formed in Gosport. They had the power to pave the streets and remove nuisances such as obstructions and dangerous overhanging shop and inn signs. In 1713, Fort Ton Hospital was opened, but it was only used as a hospital for a short time. From the 1720s, it was used to house French and later American prisoners of war. At the time of Napoleon, there were also prisoners held in hulks in Fort Ton Creek or the harbour. If they died, they were buried on Burrow Island, which was sometimes called Rat Island. Haslar Hospital opened in 1753 as a hospital for sick or injured sailors. Fort Monckton was built about 1785. A bridge was built across Haslar Lake in 1795, but it was so unsafe it was demolished in 1801 and people went back to using boats to ferry people to the hospital. In 1796, Gosport gained its first theatre. A less pleasant aspect of life in 18th century Gosport was the press gangs. If the Navy were short of men, they could legally arrest men and force them to join the Navy. In 1807, 4-ton barracks were built on the site of Fortune Hospital. Today it is the site of the Sixth Form College. In 1848 it was given to the Marines. New barracks, later called St. George's Barracks, were built in 1859, north and south of Mumby Road. A bridge was erected over Haslar Lake in 1795, but it was so unsafe it was destroyed in 1801 and anyone wishing to go cross had to go by rowing boat. In 1835 a new bridge was built. In 1842 a pier was built at Stokes Bay for the convenience of Queen Victoria when she travelled to the Isle of Wight. In the 1850s a ring of forts was built from Portsdown Hill to Fareham to Gosport in case the French landed somewhere along the coast of southern England and tried to attack Portsmouth overland. Two forts, Gilkicker and Elson, were built in 1858. Fort Gomer, now demolished, and Forts Rowner, Brockhurst, and Grange were built in 1862. Fort Blockhouse was rebuilt. In the 1850s, gunboat sheds were built by Blockhouse. By the 1830s, new houses were built in Newtown, which was, at first, called Binghamtown after the man who built it. In 1837 a writer mentions a large hamlet called Binghamtown to the west of the town of Gosport. By 1851 the population of Gosport had passed 16,000, but over 7,000 of them still lived inside the walls. Nevertheless, by the 1850s the settlement of Fort Ton was growing. Camden Town grew up in the 1860s and was named after an area of London. In the late 19th century Elverstoke became completely built up and the field separating it from Gosport disappeared. Gosport Park was laid out in 1891 on the site of Your Common. Around the same time, Walpole Park was laid out on a piece of land called the Horsefield. It was named after Thomas Walpole, the rector of St. Mary's Church, Alverstoke. In 1859 the Naval Cemetery at Haslar was opened. Gosport gained its first volunteer fire brigade in 1867. It was taken over by the council in 1897. For centuries rowing boats had carried people and goods across the harbour. In 1841 Gosport was connected by railway to Southampton via Fareham. In 1863 an extension was built to Stokes Bay. In 1894 an extension was made to Lee-on-Solent. In 1889 a man named Blake opened an isolation hospital for people with infectious diseases. It later became Blake Maternity Hospital, then a maternity home. In the 20th century, Gosport continued to thrive. The submarine base at Gosport dates from 1905. In 1914, Grange Airfield at Rowner was occupied by the Fleet Air Arm. The first cinema in Gosport opened in 1910. By the 1930s, there were 4 of them. Gosport was also given a grant from the central government to provide work for the unemployed. Lawn tennis courts were built at Stokes Bay, so was a promenade. The old Cockle Pond was turned into Gosport Model Lake. In 1923 the War Memorial Hospital opened, and in 1924 an open-air swimming pool opened. Meanwhile, in 1927 4-ton barracks was turned into St. Vincent Training School for young sailors. It closed in 1967. The last trams ran in Gosport in 1929. They were replaced by buses. Then in 1937 Privet Park Sports Ground was laid out for cricket, hockey and football. In 1945 the council began to build a new council housing estate at Bridgemary and Rowner. German POWs built the first houses. Building continued through the late 1940s and 1950s. Many of the new houses were prefabs. They were made in sections in factories and could be erected in a few days. If you have enjoyed this video, please share and follow Gosport drones so others can also enjoy them.